Hi, Jake and I again, back for another little talk. The last time we talked, I mentioned how fast we were learning new things. Well, just a few days ago, I began to think about two concerns that we seem to have today that could be solved within the next 20 years or maybe even sooner. They both deal with energy. Now, I live in central Alberta, and Alberta is 255,541 square miles. It's big. Not quite as big as Texas, but getting there. It takes a number of hours, for instance, for my daughter to travel from Manning, Alberta, where she teaches, to Edmonton. Close to 7 hours. And Edmonton is another 3 hours to Calgary, and Calgary is another 2 hours to the U.S. border. We've traveled it from time to time. Now, to travel to the south, it takes nearly 12 hours. When people talk about electric cars, most Albertans smile but think, no way. Nice for city folks, but not practical for us rural folks. And I must admit, I'm one of them. So how do they solve the problem? Well, the other day I came across an article about solar roadways. Now, if thinking about the highway system, you have to go back to the 1950s. And when I was a young man going to college and even in high school, President Eisenhower in the early 1950s began a building program that resulted in the current interstate highway system. And the system has stood the United States and, for me, traveling from here to Provincetown, quite well. I once traveled from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Provincetown on the old Highway 66 route that ends up being Highway 6 when you get to Provincetown. But in recent years, the system has been showing its age. Bridges needing replacement and actually collapsing, asphalt deteriorating faster than they can be repaired, and the need to widen roads because of higher demand. With the advent of the electric car, there's a new need to examine how we build highways. Currently, there are a number of companies working on solar panels that can be used to replace asphalt roads, playgrounds, and parking lots. If successful, they would replace the need for recharging stations and extend the capabilities of an electric car indefinitely. I would not be surprised to see the beginning of the construction of such highways before the end of this decade, and a full system by my 100th birthday. But at any rate, keep an eye on solar roadways. They're experimenting, I think, in the state of Idaho right now, and they look quite impressive. If you're really interested, just put in solar roadways in your Google search, and you can go and see a video about what they plan to do. Now, remember I told you it was taking about 6 months for humans to double our current knowledge? Well, I was wrong. When I was reading up on solar roadways, I also took a look at how fast we are doubling our entire knowledge. It's 12 hours. By the end of today, we will have doubled everything that we knew up until the beginning of today. So, solar highways, impossible? Maybe not. Now, the other source of energy that we have been dealing with has been oil and gas, and hydropower and solar power. Well, back in the late 40s, early 50s, they were playing around with a thing called fusion. Now, that's a little different than fission. We heard about it and how scientists were exploring how they could go about harnessing fusion energy. It was thought to have tremendous potential. But it would be many years into the future before scientists could make a practical source of energy. Well, welcome to the future. Last summer, they produced more energy from a fusion reaction than they put into it. We're on the road to using fusion energy. It's going to take a while, before we can plug into it. But remember what I said about how we are doubling our total sum of knowledge every 6 months? Yeah, it's 12 hours. So who really knows how long it's will be before fusion becomes our prime source of energy? You know, it's quite a chore. Jake had a little visit with the vet today, and he did a really good job when he got his shots for rabies and other stuff. He did really, really good. Hey, Jake? Well, it's time for us to think about what we've just said, and remember, the next time we do our next podcast, knowledge may very well have tripled or even more. So we'll see you down the road.